Welcome back to the second hour of our program. On the line with us is the chair of the Democratic National Committee, Jaime Harrison. Democrats.org is the website. Harrison Jaime, Jaime, is his Twitter handle. And Chairman Harrison, welcome back to the program. I'm curious, well, first of all, what's the state of play right now?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me again, Tom. Really appreciate it. The state of play is we got to win in November, on November 8th, and we are well on our way to doing just that. We have some amazing candidates who are running tough races across the country, but they're better quality than the Republicans, and they're running better races. And right now, I believe that we are set on a path to keep our majorities in the House, to grow that majority in the Senate, and to pick up a few governor's mansions along the way. So I'm feeling really good. I feel momentum's on our side. Now it's just about turnout, is getting people to the polls.
Yeah. A year or so ago, I published an op-ed pointing out that back in the 90s, when the Republicans came after the Democrats on the issue of crime, Bill Clinton's response was putting 100,000 cops on the streets and pounding that message to the point that every American knew he had done it. And it kind of defanged the argument. I know that President Biden's American Rescue Plan had, as I recall, $350 billion to enhance police departments around America. I don't think, I think if you asked, 50 random Americans on the street and offered each one of them $100 to tell you if that happened or not, they would be clueless. How is the Democratic Party's messaging on crime coming? This is now, I don't know if you caught it, but I'm guessing you did. Day before yesterday, the top headline on the Washington Post was Republicans are going to be using crime and race as their primary messaging. I'm waiting to see this election cycle's version of the old Willie Horton ads again. Yeah. I guess they're trying to do this to the Senate candidate up in Wisconsin. Yep. Can you speak to that? This seems like a significant danger, a warning signal here.
Well, it is, and it's important that we hit back hard on this. And I've had conversations with Mandela and a few of the other candidates who are running for the U.S. Senate, because I saw what Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and Republicans were able to do against me in 2020, and many of the other candidates that ran in 2020 to say that we were soft on crime. My grandfather was in the Detroit Police Department for almost 40 years. So this idea of me defunding the police is ludicrous. But what we got to do is make sure that not only through our words, but show through the actions that Republicans are the real ones who are soft on crime, who are soft in terms of supporting those good police officers that are out there. And take a look at what they did in terms of the American Rescue Plan. They voted against the dollars that shored up our emergency services, police and fire, going through the pandemic. We saw how they treated the police and who protected them on January 6th. There were a number of Republicans that didn't even vote for a congressional gold medal for many of those police officers. Kevin McCarthy, he sent them some Chick-fil-A instead of meeting with some of the officers that were impacted. And then we have seen recently that Marjorie Taylor Greene and the person who was right behind Kevin McCarthy when he rolled out the Republican, I don't want to call it an agenda because I don't know what it was, who's been talking about defunding the FBI. So seriously, the Republican Party is for their own power. They're not for the police. They're not for the safe communities. They're for whatever it takes, whatever they need to say in order to get back into the majority. And Democrats have to make sure that we let that be known and plain for the American people.
There are roughly 1,500 right-wing radio stations in America. There are an estimated 200 or 300 right-wing Spanish language radio stations now in the country. This overwhelmingly tilts the media in that direction. I've told the story before about sitting in the office of a United States senator with one of the billionaire owners of one of the big three radio network conglomerates. He owned over 900 radio stations, and asking him, you've got hundreds of stations with right-wing programming on them. Would you consider even one station carrying progressive programming? And his answer was, I will never put anybody on the air who wants to raise my taxes, period. And this is a structural problem. It appears that back in the 70s and 80s, conservatives actually targeted many of the Midwestern states, the Wyoming, Montana kind of states, Iowa, whatnot, because their media markets were so cheap. You get a state with only a couple million people in it, you can buy radio stations for nothing. And, started programming right-wing radio into these states, and they flipped them from Democratic control in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even the early 80s, into Republican control, and they've held them that way through the media. Does the Democratic Party or do any of your major Democratic donors have anything to do or say about this? I mean, you just pick one state, pick Iowa, pick Wyoming, pick Montana, and go in and pick up a couple of radio stations. Just lease them for 2 years as an experiment. I mean, these stations are available all over the place, and and I'm not pitching my show here. Obviously, I have a dog in this fight, but put local progressive programming on the air, and see how it affects local politics. I predict you'll see a big change. Is anybody talking about this in your party? Party?
Yeah, well, Tom, this is something that I've talked about, and I talked about when I was running for the United States Senate. I think we need to reevaluate and reassess the fairness doctrine. As you know, back in the 70s and 80s, there was the FEC looked at how communications over the public airways and making sure that there was equal time presented there for multiple senses of a particular issue. And it may be something that we have to re-examine.
Well, I get that, but that's not going to happen. I mean, and I worked in radio back in the 60s and 70s when we were operating under the fairness doctrine, and that equal time provision only applied to editorials by the management or ownership of the station. So if you put somebody if you put Rush Limbaugh on the air, there was no equal time provision, for example. But what I'm saying is, you're going to spend $1 billion or more this year on this election. I mean, just the party and the people directly affiliated with the party. For a fraction of that, you could buy 25 radio stations in 3 Midwestern states and have 24/7 essentially advertising for Democrats, which is, basically what I'm doing all day long. And just like every right-wing talk show host in this country is advertising 4/7. And not just during the election times, it would be year-round.
Well, Tom, I think those of the folks that we know that are on our side, because, we got to, look at apples to apples. The Democratic Party can't buy that. No. But some of our major donors who are out there who want to.
That's my plea.
Yes.
That's my plea.
I think that's really important. I want to say kudos to Stephanie Valente. I don't know if you heard about the effort that she has taken. Stephanie worked in the Obama White House and has done a lot, particularly in the Latino outreach space. And she has partnered with a few folks to go out and start to buy some of the Spanish language radio stations.
Good on her.
To make sure that the programming there was, pushing back against all the disinformation that we're seeing on Latino-oriented radio. And so she's moving forward on that. And I'm hearing other folks are looking at other areas in terms of African-American radio stations as well. So, I encourage that. It's really, really important that people are getting a balanced approach and hearing the contrary to some of the far right-wing messaging that is out there.
Yeah. What do you, a friend of mine who pretends to be in the confidence of, or maybe he is, of the old Clinton campaign, told me the other day that one of the new strategies in the Democratic Party is AGED, AGED, abortion, guns, environment, democracy, the threat to democracy. That these are the 4 main issues that the party is going to be running on. I've not heard that from anybody else. Is that something that you guys are looking at? Are you thinking of, have you refined your message? Is there a nationwide push to tighten the Democratic message and pound on just a few things over and over again? Now, we've got this good science showing that the more often people hear things, regardless of whether they're true or not, the more often they hear them, the more likely they are to believe that they're true. It's always nice to start with things that actually are true. And on our side, abortion, guns, the environment, and democracy are real issues.
Well, the other thing that I would add to that is a fifth leg to that, which is Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah.
And what Republicans are talking about in terms of gutting those programs right now. We saw Rick Scott's plan, which is to put these programs on the chopping block every few years. And so I would say those are the 5 major points. And that democracy front is so closely tied to abortion, but along with voting rights and our freedom of speech in this country as well. Yeah. So I would say those are the top issues that you will hear Democratic candidates and the Democratic Party talk about over and over and over again. And if you just listen to the president's speeches, those are the issues that he hits on time and time again.
You know, on this program, maybe, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, you were with us, and you said that you felt that some of these Republicans were basically openly fascist. We just have a minute before we're going to hit a hard break here that I can't stop. But President Biden came out and said the MAGA Republicans are semi-fascist. Are we going to hear more of this actual calling people out using this kind of harsh, but I think, frankly, honest language?
Well, I think it's important to call it what it is. And the president has been very clear in terms of what MAGA Republicans and the threat that they have towards our democracy. And I think it's really, really important that we take off the velvet gloves in terms of talking about Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, and what the extremism that they are pushing in this country right now. That's really, really important because democracy is on the line. Democracy is on the ballot. Reproductive freedom is on the ballot. All of the things that we hold dear in this country that makes America special are on the ballot. And we cannot allow these Republicans, we can't allow the Lindsey Graham and the Ted Cruzes of the world, the Kevin McCarthy's of the world, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world, to take over this government.
Yeah, I'm with you. DNC Chair Jaime Harrison, Democrats.org, Harrison Jamie on Twitter. Chairman Harrison, it is always nice talking with you. Thank you so much for dropping by today.
Thank you, Tom.
Do appreciate the conversation. We'll be right back. I want to get into Fox News endorsing Italian fascist Meloni and telling us that she's just politically in the center. Really?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And is big oil now trying to throw the election to the Republicans? This is an amazing story. Stick around.